Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Vegan Spirituality online gathering. My name's Lisa Levinson. I'm here with In Defense of Animals and Vegan Spirituality to welcome you to our program today. We started Vegan Spirituality to explore veganism as a spiritual practice, and we do that together online, but also in person at many groups across the country. So if you're curious and want to join a local group, you're welcome to find out more about the groups at veganspirituality.com, and you can click the tab groups and find one in your area. If there isn't one in your area, you're welcome to email us so that you can start one. You can do that at veganspirituality@gmail.com. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to my co-host, Judy Carman, who's also the author of Peace to All Beings and Homo Ahimsa. And she will introduce you to our featured speaker this evening. Hey, Judy.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for coming to this wonderful event. We're so excited because our guest is very, very special tonight. And his name is Swami Chidananda. I'm going to read a little bit of his bio, and you all will just be amazed of how, what a wonderful guest we have here. And there's probably going to be lots of questions. I'm going to ask a few questions first, and then when I'm done, we'll open up for Q&A. So get your questions ready. All right, so Swami Chidananda, thank you for coming. We're so glad you're here and so grateful to you. We know how busy you are. He's traveling right now, so we're very, very blessed that he could join us. So he is a spiritual educator and a monk initiated in the Hari Bhakta lineage, holding the distinguished title of Swami. Through the study of scriptures such as the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, Swami has gained a deep understanding of the science of yoga and has devoted his life to helping others on their inner journey. Before entering the spiritual path, he had a successful career as an investment banker and entrepreneur. Now he uses his experiences to convey the ancient yoga systems in a relatable and accessible way for those seeking to reconcile Western and Eastern philosophies, which I think a lot of us are very interested in. He lives and works at the Elmira Ashram and Temple in upstate New York. It is a Bhakti Marga spiritual hub for seekers across America. The ashram is home to monastics and community members living life in service to the divine, offering daily prayers, lively spiritual discussion, dynamic devotional music, and space to learn or deepen the spiritual aspects of your yoga and meditation practice. And this is very exciting news. And on June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Swami has organized something called the Soul of Ahimsa, one of our favorite words, and it is a vegan spirituality retreat. Two more of our very favorite words. And this is in partnership with the Compassion Consortium with Victoria Moran and others. And he will be a featured speaker there, as will Victoria. So that sounds incredible and awesome. And anybody who wants to go, he's going to talk more about it to us tonight. But to start out, Swami, were you vegan when you were an investment banker? And please tell us how you decided to go vegan and how it relates to your spiritual path.
Hello, Judy. Hello, Lisa. Thank you for having me in this webinar. It's lovely to be here and to connect with both of you. So in regards to if I was a vegan before I went on the spiritual path, the short answer would be no. I was not so inclined towards spirituality. I would even say I was borderline atheist. And my main focus was trying to make as much money as possible, trying to acquire as much things as possible. I was very much focused on power, influence, fame, and all of those different desires that a lot of us run after. And I think in that state of mind, I was very disconnected from a higher reality. I was very disconnected from my fellow human beings, as well as animals, as well as all beings on this earth. And in that disconnection, I had no issues in causing harm, taking life, not for survival, but for sense gratification. So for me, the idea of being vegan, the idea of protecting animals, helping animals was very much an afterthought. For me, it was more about just gratifying my senses as much as possible.
Okay, yeah, I think a lot of people have been there and know people who are still there. So it's so exciting to know you that you moved out of that. You were able to come out of that. So what changed for you?
Yeah, I think for me, the change can pretty much be summed up by a very beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita. This is in chapter 2 of the Gita, verse 59, where Krishna says, the objects of the senses can be given up. So things of this world can be given up, but an attachment to them will exist. So even though I've given it up, there is still an attachment in my mind for wanting it, for craving it. But then he continues in the verse and he says, when one has experienced the divine, when one has felt the divine, such attraction is naturally renounced. So he says you can give up the objects of the senses, but attachment to them can still exist. But when you have experienced the divine in your life, such attraction is naturally renounced. So there's no idea of even wanting, it's no idea of even, oh, I have to give this up. I have to do this. It just happens naturally, right? You naturally detach from material gratification. And that's exactly what happened to me. You know, I can say that I read a book, I was influenced by people, I was this or that, but unfortunately, none of those things happened. The thing that happened is I had the grace to feel the divine. I had the grace to experience the divine through a series of circumstances, meeting my spiritual teacher, being in India, being in a spiritual environment. And that feeling of love made me realize that we are all connected, that we are all one. And to cause harm unnecessarily didn't make a lot of sense for me any longer. So it was just literally from one day to the next. The moment I experienced this love, I knew that I could not continue to kill, not kill directly, but to be the cause of animals being killed. And such attraction was naturally renounced. And I'm very, very grateful for my teacher and very, very grateful for the spiritual path. And it also allows me to see things from a different perspective because, you know, I understand where a lot of people are coming from, especially in this day and age. I think most people are good people. They're not wanting to cause harm. They're not wanting to just kill animals for no reason. But at the same time, we become so desensitized to the true reality of what is. And in that space, even though we, in a deeper sense, don't want to cause harm, because we're desensitized, we go through the motions, almost like a robot just going through life, right? We see it in the grocery store, we pick it up, we eat it. We're so far disconnected from reality that we just justify it as another thing. But the more and more we awaken to this love, the more and more we perceive this connection that is connecting all of us, and the more and more we become in tuned with it, to the subtle frequencies of it, we start to realize inwardly that actually this way of life doesn't make sense. And that's the beautiful thing about veganism. It's not something that is unnatural to the soul. It's a very natural thing for the soul. It's not we're not preaching something that is unnatural or something very difficult. In reality, that's our inherent nature, is to be vegans. That's the inherent nature of the Atma, of who we are. But because of a misunderstanding, because of ignorance of our true reality, and a desensitization to things around us, we go away from that which we truly are. So I have to say, my journey started and ended with my true reality. It was not somewhere I had to go. It was something that I just had to wake up to, because I was already and always in that state.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Swami. Thank you. So it's that love that you experienced. And so that must have led you to want to become a Swami. And so when did that happen, when you made that decision? That was a big decision, right? Because you had to leave your old life behind.
Sure. Well, it's important to understand that in our path, you don't have to become a renunciate. So renunciate is another term for monk in the Western world. So there are two paths to enlightenment: external renunciation, where you give up the things of the world, you go into an ashram or monastery, you become a monk, and you strive to realize who you are. The other path is that you live in the world. This is called a householder. You have a job, you have a family, you have your 9 to 5, and you strive to realize who you are through that duty or dharma. So it's important that both paths lead to the truth. But which one that you choose is based on a lot of things, such as your attributes, your qualities, how you view the world, your past karma, what you need to learn in this life. So there are many variables that cause one to choose a specific path. So for me, just going through the understandings and awakening to a higher spiritual consciousness, I started to realize that my individual path was the path of a monk. My guru didn't say you have to become a monk. It was just something that I naturally gravitated towards. Now, of course, being a monk, the danger is that I can externally renounce, but in my mind, I could still hold on to all types of desires, right? So I could give up the Lamborghini, I could give up the beautiful man or female, whatever it might be. But in my head, if I'm still holding on to it, then what have I really detached? So even when you become a monk, there is a journey. It's not that you just become a monk and boom, you've controlled your senses, you become detached from the world. There's a whole process that you go towards. So I never went on the path to become a Swami. What happened was that I took the vows of becoming a monk. And there are stages to being a monk. So the first stage is a brahmachari. This is where you live in the ashram, you don't travel, and you wear yellow, and you focus on your internal understanding of reality and giving up those attachments. Then you become a rishi. A rishi is not something you take, it's an initiation that is given to you by a guru who has seen that you have now gone to the next level. As a rishi, you have more control over your senses, you travel more, you speak more about the spiritual path. And then eventually the final initiation is a Swami. So Swami is once you've lived many, many, many years as a monk and you've let go of material desires and gratification, then you're given that title as a Swami and you wear orange. So Swami means one that has mastered the self. And the reason why we wear orange is because it symbolizes the fire of renunciation. So in the fire of renunciation, we have burned up our desires that are keeping us from seeing the true reality. So in that way, I didn't set out to become a Swami. I set out to realize myself. And that journey led me to the path of a monk. And over many years, somehow my guru felt that I was ready to receive an initiation as a Swami.
Wow, that's just an amazing story of where you've been and where you are now. And I think it's something that we all, in this group, the vegan spirituality group, we're very tuned into the idea that we are all one, and that love is the essence, and that is our true nature. But you have been able to actually get there, and that is so it's wonderful that you're out teaching and helping people, because I think there's a longing for this in many people. And a lot of people are, like you say, they've got jobs, families, and so they're householders. And to put that together is not easy. And so wonderful that you are out there helping people with that. So tell us about this retreat, the Soul of Ahimsa retreat. What's it going to be like? What's going to take place there? And what I'm guessing the food is all vegan. And so, yeah, and how can people find out about it and come to it?
Sure. So when we started an ashram, well, I had spent over 10 years with my spiritual teacher in Germany. And then about 3 years ago or so, my teacher said for me to go to the United States and start to speak about the spiritual path. And so I arrived in New York City. I didn't really know anybody, didn't really have any money, anything. And I just started to teach. And I was lucky enough that a few people had offered to host me when I was in the city. And over the years, we were able to build a community. And myself and a fellow Swami, we decided to come together and create an ashram in upstate New York called Elmira. The city is called Elmira. And that place we started about 1 year ago, approximately 1.5 years ago. The first day we moved in was February 17th of last year. And at that time, there was no heat, no water, none of it was happening. So over the last year, we've really worked very hard to have it a place where people can come and visit. And one of the main tenets of the ashram is what we refer to as bhakti, or devotion, or love. So we're a bhakti ashram focused on the path of love. And one of the tenets of bhakti is to not cause harm to individuals or beings without any reason. So for us, we wanted to be a Ahimsa ashram, and when we look at how animals are being harmed, even for milk, we see that it's not in alignment with the path of bhakti. So we decided to become vegan. And over the last year, we've been hosting a lot of different events, and I had the pleasure to meet Victoria when I was in New York City, and we had spoken, and she's such a lovely person, and she's doing such a great job with spreading veganism that we decided to come together and host a retreat at the ashram, which will take place in June. And it will be a 3-day retreat where we go deeper into the philosophy. So we're going to go deeper into a lot of some concepts that I'd already spoken about. What is bhakti? What is ahimsa? We're also going to focus on different concepts of veganism. We're going to have a doctor, I'm forgetting his name right now. He's a very well-known...
Milton Mills?
I'm sorry?
Is it Milton Mills?
No, not Milton Mills. His name is... I think somebody in the Q&A can probably tell me. Blanking right now. Also, Victoria will be there, and it's going to be Colin.
Yeah, Colin Campbell.
Yes, Dr. Campbell. Dr. Campbell will be there. And he's also going to speak a little bit about veganism and how it relates to our health. So it's going to be a really beautiful retreat, one that I think will be very unique, because we're going to talk about the concept of veganism in a very modern and scientific way. but we're also integrating a lot of spiritual concepts into it. Also giving meditation techniques for those that want to awaken their heart in a deeper way. And we're also going to go on a retreat, on a hike to see a vegan sanctuary, which is close by. So it's going to be a really lovely retreat. So if anybody is in that area or would like to come, it will happen June, the first week of June. So yeah, I definitely would encourage those that are interested to come and join us.
Yeah,
The link,
go ahead.
The link I think I can post in the Q&A, and then that way people can have it. Or I believe Victoria can even post it. I see that they had answered already one of the questions. So.
All right. So yeah, so that sounds incredible. And I imagine that everyone's thinking, oh, I hope I can go, or I wish I could go, or whatever. But if they can't, are there other retreats planned? And or can you just go to the ashram and visit you all and spend a few days? How does that work?
Yeah, of course, of course. You can come whenever you like. It's definitely a place where we have daily prayers in the morning and evening. So there's always going to be prayers. I can't guarantee that I'll be there because I'm traveling a lot, but the other monks are there as well, and they're happy to engage and talk with those that come and visit. We'll also have a lot of different other retreats that are happening. They're not going to be so much focused on veganism, but just on spirituality. Sometimes we'll have some retreats on the Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic scriptures. So there are many, many ways to take part. We're also going to be having an inauguration of the temple. That's happening August 31st to September 3rd. So for 4 days, that's when my teacher will come. There'll be a big event, a big inauguration of the temple there. So all you have to do is there's a very, if you just go to, I'm just going to put my website. If you just go to that website, you can see all of the events that are coming up for those that might be interested.
Great. Is there maybe a newsletter or something to sign up for?
Yeah. If you're able to go to that website, there's a way to sign up for further information, and people can stay updated with any questions or with any new announcements that are coming up.
Great. Okay. So I think it sounds like the perfect place for us, and so aligned with what we're teaching and what we're striving for ourselves personally. But one thing that we at Vegan Spirituality talk about a lot is we're exposed to so much cruelty because we're observing what's happening to the animals, and then we're writing letters, or we're protesting, or different ways of trying to get the public aware of what's happening to animals. And so there's a lot of actual trauma involved in being an animal rights activist. And even if you're not super active out in the world, just being vegan can be a little bit traumatic if you're around family who are critical of it and that sort of thing. So what my question is, what tips do you have for us of ways to find our inner peace while we're in the midst of all of this, facing all of this horror, all these animals by the billions dying, and we're unable to stop it? It's going to take a little more time. It's not going to happen today, and that is a source of great sorrow, I think, for a lot of us. So what would you say to us about how we can find peace within ourselves in the face of all that?
Absolutely. That's a great question. in this world that we live in, we all have our individual dharmas. Dharmas are duties. So some of us, our dharma is to be activists, to be on the front line, strive to get this knowledge out about the cause of harm to animals. Sometimes our dharma is to be monks. So it's not for us to be on the out in the front lines doing the activism, but we try our best to serve by praying, by going within, by inspiring others to love. And through that, they can also become vegan. For others, it might not be to be a monk or an activist. It might be to be a mother or a father or just an accountant. But even through that dharma, we can inspire others to become vegan. So where is all of the inspiration coming from? And it goes back to this understanding that when we experience divine love within ourselves and we're able to share that divine love, then once people feel it and experience it, they automatically transform. When I was living in New York City, I never told anybody to be vegan. I just sat with them and did the meditation and the practices, and we talked about spirituality. And through that, they naturally start to give up eating meat, becoming vegetarian, and some even becoming vegan without me even having to say anything. So here it really goes to, are we experiencing that divine love ourselves? And can we share that love to others by embracing our dharma? So by embracing our duty, by doing it from a space of non-attachment, by doing it from a space of service, whatever that might, it could be to be a mother, a father, an accountant. Just by doing our dharma with love, we can inspire others. It could even be to be an activist, to do that particular duty with love that will truly inspire others. So the real question is, how can we learn to love and express that love through the dharma that we've been given in this life? So for that, there are 3 things that I suggest. First is what is referred to as Sangha, S-A-N-G-H-A. Sangha is community. So look for a community that share the same ideals and values as you. For example, this is a beautiful community, the community we have at the ashram. Whatever you want to achieve in this life, look for people that can also help you to achieve it and that want to achieve the same goals. And that will really give you the strength. That will really allow you to go deeper. The second thing is what we call seva, S-C-V-A, or selfless service. So we have our day-to-day duties that we have to do to make money, to take care of our life, and do the things that we need. But beyond that, which we do for money, which we must do, because obviously we live in a world where we need to make money to eat and do all of those things, take a little bit of time to do something where you're not expecting anything in return, monetary or emotional. So it's not this, I'm doing this, I need somebody to acknowledge me. So even that is tainted with some elements of the ego. So seva is just something that you do without any expectation, without any motive for reward, and you just do it to help somebody else. Okay? So try and do a little bit of seva whenever you can, once a week, or even more if you can. That will help you to disengage from the ego, which is conditioned to act for result, which is result-driven. So we're removing that result, which then is giving less power to the ego. The less power the ego has, the more the Atma or the light inside shines. And the third is sadhana, or spiritual practice, spelled S-A-D-H-A-N-A. Sadhana is a practice that we can do to help us to transcend the mind. So it is said that the mind is like fire, right? So fire cannot extinguish itself. Water cannot wet itself. In the same way, the mind by itself cannot transcend itself. It needs something beyond the mind to transform it. So that is where sadhana or spiritual practice comes in. These spiritual practices, you can explore all various traditions, whichever one relates to you. But these practices were given by enlightened beings. So they were able to go beyond the mind, and they were able to come across techniques that we can use to also go beyond the mind. So I would encourage you to look for a sadhana practice that you feel comfortable with and try and do it on a daily basis. So if you're doing your daily sadhana, if you're doing seva whenever that you can, and you're surrounding yourself with the proper type of sangha, you will shine that love. You will shine that light, no matter what dharma you are doing. And by shining that love and that light, it will inspire others and it will protect you, right? There's a beautiful saying that dharma protects those who protect it. So love protects those who protect it. So if you are sincere about helping animals, and sincere about spreading that love, that sincerity will protect you from any negativity, from anything that can cause you harm. So I hope those three things can help those listening to awaken that love more and more within themselves.
Wow, that's just beautiful, Swami. Thank you so much. What a gift to all of us. And it's something I think that we all are dealing with as we face what's happening in the world to the animals. And one thing you mentioned in those three things was to not be attached to the outcome, which of course is what we want. We don't want any more animals to suffer. And yet here we are in the midst of it. And the idea that we are protected, I love that. I love that idea so much. And I think if we can all feel that protection, it will help us endure, I think, and stay on our dharmic path, whatever it may be. So I'm thinking maybe it's time to open up for Q&A. And I see William just asked something. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to go through the questions. Are you there, Lisa? There she is.
Thank you for that incredible interview, Judy, and also Swami. I learned so much.
Yes, I did too.
Very, very helpful with the differences with the seva and the protection that Judy was mentioning. And wow, thank you very much. So we do have a question, and it looks like William shared one. In the yoga tradition, we have reincarnation and karma. And this explains something of human suffering. But what about animal suffering? Animals don't choose to live in opposition to spiritual law. So why do they suffer so terribly? Oh.
Thank you, Lisa.
Sure.
So the first thing that we have to realize is that we live in a material creation that has two laws associated with it. One is that of duality, another is of impermanence. So this world is full of duality and impermanence. And the reason it's designed that way is for the Atma or soul to experience a distorted version of love, to experience a deprivation of love. And ultimately, it is at the highest sense a place where the Atma goes to, for a moment in time, experience the opposite of love. This is unlike other traditions, Abrahamic traditions. There is no such thing as eternal hell. There is just a moment of deprivation. So when it comes into it, it's going to experience duality. So what our job, what we're striving to do is to love as much as possible in this reality, with the understanding that ultimately this place will never be perfect. right? Many traditions say that we are trying to make this world perfect. The Vedic tradition says that this world's inherent nature is imperfection. Perfection comes not by engaging with this world, but by realizing our true reality beyond this world, okay? So this world will never be perfect. There will always be some element of destruction, violence, and so forth and so on. And it's designed in that way. So, but as humans, we must strive to bring as much love as possible. So it's very paradoxical. We're asked to bring as much love as possible into this reality, and also have the deeper understanding that this world will always be a world of duality, okay? So with that being said, where does suffering come from? Suffering comes from avidya, or ignorance of our true self, okay? So suffering is mind. The mind is what causes suffering. And so the animals, it is said that there are two states that animals are in, okay? When the Atma comes into this reality, it goes through a process of evolution. It experiences all beings. It experiences beings from the lowest amoeba to a plant, to an animal, and then eventually to a human. And it is said that as you move along different beings, the level of consciousness increases every being, and the feelings connected to the five senses become more engaged. So theoretically speaking, not theoretically, the Vedic understanding is that animals have a higher level of consciousness and engage their five senses more than plants. And plants have a higher level of consciousness than amoebas. And humans have a higher level of consciousness and engage their senses more than animals. So when we look at Ahimsa, it is said that the Atma is programmed to understand when it is confronted with two beings and choosing one that is going to cause less harm. So for example, if you give a banana and a calf of cow's baby to a child and say, here's a knife, cut one or the other, it's going to naturally gravitate towards cutting the banana than the cow, right? It's not that the banana is not alive. It is alive. But in order to cause the least harm possible, it's going to choose the banana over the cow, okay? So that is why in Ahimsa, it does not mean not causing harm at all. We have to cause some harm, because in Vedic tradition, it says that life lives on life. Life lives on life, which means that we have to cause some harm to survive. That's just how nature works. But it's better for us to cause the least harm possible. So the example I give is an Eskimo. I'm not sure if that's the correct term for somebody in Alaska, but excuse me if I cause offense, but let's just say an Eskimo, right? An Eskimo might not have plants, and it might need to kill a fish in order to survive. That's completely fine in Ahimsa. But if there are plants available and you are causing unnecessary harm, then that is where you become more entangled. Right? So for us as Ahimsa practitioners, we don't go around just randomly killing plants. We don't go and just cut a tree for no reason, because that is also causing harm, because there is an Atma in that tree. So why would we cause harm unnecessarily? And for us, if we can choose to just pick an apple from a tree rather than cut down the whole tree, of course, we're going to do that. There are some things designed in this reality that can give food without having to die, right? If we look at just plants, we look at the reproduction of plants versus a cow. If I cut open a fruit, it's designed to be broken open, because as it opens, the seeds come out and then it grows. More seeds grow and more plants grow from the seeds. It's designed to be cut. Imagine cutting open a cow. Do you think a calf will just come out? No, blood and guts will come out. So nature is even created in a way where some beings are designed to be broken and eaten so they can be propagated. So in that way, for us, we are not denying that every being, even a plant, has inhabited a soul in it. But we are saying that some beings are less conscious, less aware of the five senses, and we cause less harm to them by eating them rather than other beings, okay? So that being said, I hope that kind of makes a little bit of sense, following along a little bit. So that being said, the Atma evolves. So it goes from a plant to an animal, eventually to a human. Now, as a human, if we actively cause harm knowingly, it is said in the Vedic tradition that you can regress and you can be born as an animal, okay? So the animals that are suffering are actually humans that caused harm in the past that are now having to experience that same suffering. So that is why it is said that animals can theoretically suffer because they were humans that caused that suffering prior and they are now experiencing it. So it is the law of karma being activated. Of course, it's a bit more complex than that. We only have 15 minutes. Usually we speak about karma for hours and hours and hours and the philosophy behind it. But you can look at it as one of the reasons why an animal might suffer.
Wow, that's very interesting, Swami. Thank you for clarifying that and sharing that perspective. We have another question here for you. And this one is, what are some, this is from Elisa, what are some ways, some examples that you can mention that householders follow to follow their spiritual path?
Sure. So there was a disciple who went to his teacher and he said, why was the Bhagavad Gita given on a battlefield? Why was it not given in a peaceful setting in an ashram? And the teacher looked at the person and said, look, you can go off into a cave and you can meditate for 20 years. But in that cave, there's nobody to make you mad, nobody to make you angry, nobody to make you jealous. So in that cave, you might think that you've become this great yogi. But after 20 years, you leave that cave and you walk down the mountain and you step foot on an Indian bus. And if you've been to India, a bus that holds 10 people, there's 100 people in there. So in that bus, when people start stepping on your foot, pushing you, calling you names, then you'll realize if you're truly a yogi or just another human being. So the Gita was given on the battlefield because the battlefield represents life. It's for those that live in the world, but strive to become yogis. And Krishna has spoken about how we can look at this reality. And he said this in chapter 2, verses 48 to 51. So if you want to reference those verses, it can really give us some very beautiful understandings of how we can be in the world and strive to attain this yogi mindset. And I have the Gita with me. I'll just read the verses so you get an understanding of what he's saying. Krishna says, established in your practice, abandon attachment, perform your duty, see success and failure with an even mind. This equanimity is the true meaning of yoga. Arjuna, action done with attachment to the results is far inferior. Seek refuge in that equanimous state. Those who are motivated by the fruits of their action are petty-minded. Remaining equal-minded, one rises above righteous and unrighteous deeds. Therefore, devote yourself to this yoga, for yoga is the true way of performing action. So here Krishna says, don't be attached to the fruits of your action. See success and failure with an even mind. and remain in a state of equanimity, understanding that ultimately all is the divine will. And the more and more you go into this state by doing your daily sadhana, doing your seva, and engaging in sangha, the more and more you will start to shine that love even when you are in the world.
Wow, that is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm just curious if you can share perhaps some of the distinctions between this practice and Buddhism. Do you feel that they are similar? That this story that you shared it had the echoes of Buddhism as well.
Well, so Buddhism is very complex. There's many, many, many teachings involved in Buddhism. So to speak about Buddhism in a high level, I'm not going to cover all traditions, but I can give you some basic understanding based on some of the more common understandings of Buddhism. So it is said that there are 4 aspects of the divine. There is the individual Atma, which you and me are. There is then what is called the Brahman, which is the light. So it has no qualities and attributes. It's just the light that is an energy that sustains and holds everything together. Then there's called the Paramatma, which is the divine with attributes and qualities residing in the hearts of all beings. And then there is something called the Bhagavan, which is a form of the divine that comes into this world as an avatar and reciprocates in a relationship with us, okay? So we have the Atma, which is the light of yourself. We have Brahman, which is the light that is connecting all beings. You have the Paramatma, one that has attributes and qualities residing in the hearts of all beings. So in the Vedas, it says there is a tree. The tree has 2 branches. The first branch, there is a bird, and the bird is eating an apple. Above that, there is another bird. The other bird is watching the lower bird partake in the apple, but not engaging, but just watching. The lower bird is the Atma, right, that engages with the world. The higher bird is the Paramatma, looking at the Atma and following it life after life. And then you have the avatar or Bhagavan that we can have a relationship with. So in the Vedic tradition, some believe that the goal of life is to realize Brahman, that everything is just this light. Everything is just one. You, me, God, we're all one and the same. The main saying is, I am that, okay? In the Bhakti tradition, it's not to realize the light, but to realize the personal relationship. So we're saying that we are not this light, but we are an eternal fragment of the divine. And the culmination of the realization is to have a personal relationship. So the relationship between the Atma and God without the mind is where we experience the most amount of joy, okay? So for some, it's to be one with the light, and for others, it's to remain with an individual consciousness and to experience a relationship with the divine without the ego, okay? That's the Vedic tradition. So in the Vedic tradition, there is this understanding we are all connected. Whether it's the light or whether it's Bhagavan, we're all connected one way or another. And Krishna says that it's like a pearl necklace. The pearl necklace is connected by a thread. The thread holds all of the pearls together. If you cut the thread, the pearl necklace ceases to exist. So for us to know Brahman or to know Bhagavan, to know this energy that connects everything together, we ask for grace. We ask for longing. So there is, I don't know what is beyond the Atma, and I wish to realize my relationship with it. So with the grace and longing, that which is beyond me reveals itself to me, okay? So that cannot be revealed without grace. That's like coming to a door and there's the owner on the other side. No matter how hard you knock, the owner has to open the door and let you in. Okay. So that's the Vedic tradition. There is elements of grace. You cannot escape grace. And there's elements of devotion towards the divine. Now in Buddhism, let me reframing once again, not all Buddhist tradition, but some main traditions, they don't necessarily care about understanding Brahman. They don't care about the light. And they don't care about having a relationship with the divine. For them, it's irrelevant. All they care about is not suffering. And the best way to not suffer is to realize that you're not this body, you are not this mind, but you are the Atma. So in Buddhism, elements of grace, longing, something beyond ourselves, revealing itself to us, all of that doesn't exist. And Buddha was asked, so tell me about Brahman, tell me about God. And Buddha says, these things, forget about it. I don't want to talk about it. These things are not relevant. Just firstly, realize that you're not this body, you're not this mind. So in Buddhism, it's very much focused on transcending that mind. So we're chanting mantras, we are going within, we're going in deep contemplation to realize that we're not this body, we're not this mind. There are forces that connect all of us, but Buddhism doesn't necessarily care about realizing that. It doesn't matter what these forces are. It just matters that you know that you are not this body, you are not this mind. So in Buddhism, Brahman, Bhagavan, Paramatma is removed from the equation. And the focus is just on the Atma. So in Buddhism, elements of grace, bhakti, devotion to something divine is not as present. It's more about just processing the mind and rising beyond the mind and realizing the Atma. I mean, this is a very, very general overview. As I said, we talk about these things in a much deeper level, hours and hours and hours of philosophy, but just to give you a little bit of a taste of the distinction between the two.
Thank you so much, Swami. That really helps me to understand that at a more basic level. And also, it would inspire me to attend one of your retreats so I could learn a little more. Yeah. Well, gosh, what a delightful conversation we've had so far. And I wonder, maybe if we'll be bringing it to a close shortly, if that's something that either, if you have something you'd like to share with us as a special closing, either a prayer or a blessing of some kind. If not, then I think Judy and I will share one.
Oh, please, I'd love to have you share. I've done enough talking and speaking, so please feel free to close.
Thank you. Well, Judy, do you want to share one of the prayers, either that you have written or our very general one that we share daily for the Circle of Compassion?
Yeah, I think everybody knows that one. Compassion encircles the earth for all beings everywhere. So we could all say that together. I guess people can't unmute. Is that right?
Yeah. In this case, it would be us sharing that.
We'll just say it. Yeah. And then close with our Namaste vegan.
Yes.
Okay.
Before we go into that closing, I do want to take a moment to thank everybody for joining us today, all the people who joined live and those who are with us through the live stream on social media. And we're getting wonderful comments. They're saying very inspiring. Thank you. Love this. Thank you. And this is beautiful and informative. Peace and light to you. So people are really, enjoying that. And I just wanted to share those comments so you'll know this is what our community is saying to you, Swami, for your words of wisdom. And we deeply appreciate your careful answers and even distinctions that you've made. I really felt very educational. We're grateful to you for joining us, and to everyone who's joining from wherever you're joining from. Yeah. And with that, we can say our closing prayer blessing, which is compassion
encircles the earth for all beings everywhere. And that is a prayer that is said around the world every day at noon or whenever you think of it. And it has been translated into many languages on the circleofcompassion.org website. So it's a pretty powerful prayer. So, or vision, however you want to look at it. So, Swami, I just want to thank you so much for being with us and taking your time when I know you're busy giving talks elsewhere where you are on your travels. So we're just so appreciative, and I know we all learned so much, and hope some of us will be able to see you in June. And I think we'll all go to your website and check out other things that are going to be going on, and trying to stay close to what you're doing. So thank you so much for being with us. And with that, our closing is Namaste, Vegan.
Yes, thank you so much. I know that, Swami, we're so privileged to have you visit us at our vegan spirituality group in Los Angeles. So we got to have him share in person, which was so nice. So for those of you who may host groups in different areas and would like to invite Swami Chidananda as a speaker, I think that would be also a wonderful experience for everyone.
Thank you so much. It was lovely to connect with both of you, and hope to connect again online or in person in the near futures. Thank you so much.
Yes, to everyone. We're going to bid you adieu, and hope everybody has a wonderful evening. We did share the link to the retreat in the chat box, so you have that, and we do hope that some of you will join the retreat. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time. Blessings, everyone. Vegan blessings.
Blessings, everybody. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Swami.
Good night.